Stephen Horrell is a senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis and joins me now from Annapolis in Maryland. Stephen, 3 months now since Russia began its invasion, and Russia is in an all-out assault in the east. Where do you see the direction of this war headed?
They are very much focusing effort in the east. And if you think about it, when they previously did the force buildup, we were all looking at 120 battalion task groups. There's now 100 or so battalion task groups focused just on the east instead of ringed around the entire country. I would highlight they're also focused on the south, on the port cities of Mykolaiv and Odessa. So the Russian forces occupying Ukraine occupying Crimea, moved north from Crimea. They took Kherson, but Russia does remain focused on Mykolaiv and Odessa as well.
So will the outcome in the east likely determine the fate of Ukraine, you think?
That's absolutely true. Again, this is the big push for Russia. If they do reach a culminating point in this offensive, they'll shift to a defense and get bogged down into a stalemate. So that still is possible. You could have a military stalemate if this Russian offensive stalls, but Ukraine still can't mount a counteroffensive against Russia once they shift to the defense.
Russia says it's prepared to continue fighting in Ukraine for as long as it takes to achieve its goals. But do we even know what Putin's goals are in Ukraine?
Going back to before this third invasion of Ukraine in February, he made some pretty clear statements. He was denying the right of Ukraine to exist as a nation state. So at that strategic level, not just to have a compliant state on its border, but really to do away with the Ukrainian national identity. He's clearly going to fall well short of that. So now it seems the more limited objectives could be dismembering Ukraine. And so again, it's the expansion of what those Russian-led separatists held in the east, connection to Crimea, which essentially was completed with the fall of Mariupol, but also all along the entire Black Sea coast to the west of the Crimean Peninsula.
The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has accused Russia of using food as a weapon of war in Ukraine. What are the global repercussions?
They're definitely using food as a weapon within Ukraine, and also then sort of exporting that into the global malign influences that Russia does. Mykolaiv and Odessa, the two port cities I mentioned before, carried about 60% of Ukraine's exports before the war. And a lot of that is grain, and especially wheat. It supplies a great amount of the food supplies for regions in the Middle East, in North Africa. So this continued Russian blockade impacts the populations in those other areas as well. And in addition to stopping Ukraine from shipping grain, the Russian army has actually stolen grain from the fields, from the storage areas, and attempted to ship it and export it themselves from Sevastopol in Crimea. They've also stolen large amounts of heavy agricultural equipment and shipped it back to Chechnya and other areas within Russia.
Well, the longer this war drags on, how much does the risk increase of other countries becoming involved? For example, Moldova, which has so far been neutral, but then they have that breakaway region of Transnistria, which has a number of Russian troops already in it. Is there a risk of this becoming a wider conflict?
There is somewhat. So not only Moldova and the Transnistria region, but other frozen conflicts where Russia has troops, for instance, in Georgia, on the eastern side of the Black Sea, in Abkhazia and in South Ossetia, where we saw the South Ossetian separatist leader, essentially a Russian puppet, also talking about a referendum like we saw in Donetsk and Lugansk, and the Russian-led sham referendum in Kherson in southern Ukraine as well. And that would just be a case of Putin trying to distract the West's attention. And again, those frozen conflicts provide an anchor for Russian troops in the area and for Russian interests, and then deny those countries the chance to fully realize their potential as nations.
All right, we'll leave it there. Stephen Horrell joining us from Annapolis, Maryland. Thank you.